Our top story at 3 p.m. There's some positive feelers of an amicable solution are coming forth in the Ayodhya title suit. Now, the call given by the Allahabad High Court today to counsels from both sides to arrive at an out-of-court settlement evoked results. The representatives of the Nirmohi Akhada, one of the party, has shown interest in settlement of issue via talks. Its counsel, Ranjit Lal Verma, said that he appreciated the idea of solving the issue outside the court. The Allahabad High Court is scheduled to deliver its judgment on the 24th of September. It had asked both the parties to arrive at an amicable solution before the judgment day. To get a better perspective on what really does this story mean, let me go across to my colleague Jujar, who joins us from the newsroom. Jujar had, in fact, visited that site just a few days back, and he's just returned back to New Delhi. Jujar, with this invitation by the Allahabad High Court to both the counsels of the two contesting parties to try and reach an amicable solution on the issue, what is really the possibility there? This hasn't happened for the first time, has it?
Absolutely not. See, Akshay, is very clear. This is obviously a very, very sensitive judgment that the Allahabad High Court is to make, and they would obviously rather prefer that when you're talking about such a sensitive issue, if the parties can come to an amicable solution on their own. But the point is, this case has been going on since 1950, and for 60 years the parties haven't come to an amicable solution. Even at the government level, during the NDA regime of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, even the government tried to broker some sort of a mediation. It didn't work. Let's go forward. Even in July this year, when the Allahabad High Court reserved its judgment, it once again, just before reserving the judgment, called all the parties and said, look, one more chance. Can you do it or not? They weren't able to come to an agreement over there. Even at the time of reserving the judgment in July, the court said, by the way, for the next couple of months, while we reserve our judgment, if any of the parties feel there is any possibility of coming to an agreement, please call up our court clerk. He'll requisition the three-judge bench to sit again, and we'll again make an attempt. That also hasn't worked. So it's good to keep trying, but I don't know if it's going to work, frankly.
All right, Jujar, do stay with us. We also have our colleague Anurag Tripathi on the phone line. Anurag, you must have heard Jujar there clearly saying these initiatives have been taken even before, where out-of-court settlement or perhaps amicable solutions have been looked at. But tell us about this latest development that's happened today, where Nirmohi Akhada has concerned one of the parties that has shown interest in settlement via talks.
This is certainly a very, very positive development, and as you know, Akshay, that initially both the parties were not willing to compromise on the issue. They were not even willing to talk, because they said that many a time talks have been heard but without any result. So perhaps this kind of initiative from the end of Nirmohi Akhada clearly shows that there is still some room for negotiation. There is still some room where both the parties can sit together and talk. And this has really gone. These parties have gone with a very positive mood inside the court. So it is quite possible that court succeeds in convincing both the parties involved in the title suit, and can defer the case for the time being, and make both parties sit together and talk over the issue. So no possibility at this point in time can be ruled out, because one of the parties involved in this case has clearly shown some interest in solving this issue by talks.
Right, Anurag, do stay with us on the phone line. Let me go back to Jujar on this development that's happened today. Jujar, now we know that the dispute, the fight is between two major parties here. We're talking about the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas and the Sunni Central Board. Now, behind them, there are various organizations that are backing this entire fight, the dispute of the Ayodhya issue. Tell us how significant really is this development where Nirmohi Akhada's interest is concerned, Jujar?
Okay, I think there are two sides to the coin over here. On the one hand, I think what Anurag was just saying was absolutely correct. It's obviously a positive, development that one of the Hindu groups involved in the case, is saying that let's talk about this, and both sides. I'll tell you, I've been in Ayodhya the last 3-4 days, and I spoke to members of both sides. I even talked to the plaintiffs involved in the case, and there is, I'll tell you, the Hindus and Muslims in Ayodhya actually get along very well. Let me point out to you that even after the demolition, while there were riots in Bombay and Delhi and other parts of the country, there were no communal riots in Ayodhya. the relationship between the Hindus and Muslims in Ayodhya is very good. But what I have found is that when you talk about that one particular issue of the Ram Janam Bhoomi, there the divergence is clear and concrete. In fact, I spoke to the Muslim plaintiff just yesterday, and he made it very clear that, as far as he's concerned, the only solution is if a mosque comes over there, if the land is handed back to them, the title suit is given back to them. So, Neem Rohi Akhada, which is one of the three parties from the Hindu side involved in the case, is a positive development that they want to talk, but whether something comes out of that, I don't know, and frankly, I'm a little bit skeptical, Akshay.
All right, Tushar, also the 24th of September is the day when we're going to hear the Allahabad High Court out, and it is a much-awaited day. It is an extremely sensitive issue that we are dealing with here. What can you share us in detail about the sentiments? Clearly, you've spoken to both the sides at this point in time. What are they really hoping for, whether it's the Hindus or the Muslims? You have said that they both are they're not the ones really fighting on ground in Ayodhya, for instance.
No, absolutely. As I told you, the Hindus and Muslims in Ayodhya and Faizabad, which is the neighboring town, get along very well with each other. I found members of both communities telling me how they go to each other's marriages, how during Eid a few days ago, Hindus and Muslims are embracing each other. So at the ground level, the relationship between the two communities in that area is very good. But as I mentioned to you, there is a clear and concrete divergence when it comes to this issue. From the Hindu side, I found that, look, they're very clear that they feel the title belongs to them or should come back to them. From the Muslim side, I told you, from the horse's mouth, the plaintiff, a man called Ansari, he's been fighting the case since 1960. He himself told me, in fact, we've got it on record as well, where he says, look, I asked him, is there a solution that can make both Hindus and Muslims happy? And he said, look, from our point of view, the only thing is if the title is handed back to us for that piece of land. So that's why I said I find it very difficult to believe that they'll be able to come to an amicable solution so easily. They haven't done so for 60 years.
All right. Also, Tushar, when you were there, what can you share with us about the security arrangements that have been made in place? I mean, 24th of September is not too far. We're already hearing how, several police personnel have been sent there. Give us a sense of what does it really look like, that area.
It's absolutely amazing. Let me just say that, as journalists, we've covered a lot of sort of high security zones, so to speak. But I'll tell you, I've never seen something like this. Not even the Prime Minister's residence in RCR. In fact, day before yesterday, we went into the Janam Sthan right over there where the idols of Lord Ram and his three brothers are placed. And I mean, to even get there, it's like a 1 kilometer trek to the highest security zone I have seen in my life. Pilgrims have to literally go through a cage. It's like iron steel barriers like this and a grill on top with wire mesh on either side. And these grills, it's like a cage you have to go through. It's just 2.5 feet wide. So basically, they're trying to prevent any possibility of crowds. For instance, you've got to go in single file. There are hundreds and hundreds of armed policemen and commandos over there. There are watchtowers over there. There are 2 barricades. There are 3 frisking points where they search you in and out. I mean, it's like out of the movies, frankly. It's heavily, heavily protected. You can't film over there. Forget the Janam Sthan. You can't even film the area around it or the barricade. Even the wire mesh you're not allowed to film. It's so strict over there.
All right. Well, Tushar, clearly you're telling us massive, massive security deployed just before that verdict that's supposed to come out on the 24th of September. Thanks very much, Tushar, for joining us. You were in Ayodhya. You've just come back and giving us the perspective on what it looks like just before that verdict. And, of course, Anurag Tripathi bringing us the latest developments in that case. Thanks very much to both of you. Now, the court has called both concerned parties for out-of-court settlement, but the Sunni Central Waqf Board is not in favour of that meeting. Jafaryab Jilani, counsel of the board, spoke to NewsX's correspondent Anurag Tripathi.
No talks are going to be held. One of the parties, he had moved an application that talks can be held, but all other parties have said that no talks are possible. We have the experience of at least 19 years of these talks. First talks were held during the regime of Chandrasekhar in 1991. Since then we have the experience. There is no question of talks when they say that they cannot budge an inch from their stand. How can we surrender it? We have also a right, equal right with those persons. So let the court decide who is right. Then only the way may be found out. At the moment, there is no possibility.
Just in case, your party is going to lose this case, just in case it happens, then what will be your future course of action?
Appeal, so Supreme Court. Supreme Court is there, and I think the Supreme Court judgment should be accepted by all the parties. Because if the parties do not come to terms, then the court of law only is the place, the opinion of which should be accepted by the parties. So we will go to Supreme Court and Supreme Court will decide. Whatever Supreme Court decides, we will accept.
There's one more apprehension that even if Supreme Court, some party goes to Supreme Court and after the verdict is out, even if the party who is losing the ground is not agreeing on what Supreme Court said, then I mean, how the process will went
now, today, as we stand today, all the parties have said, even Mr. Mohan Bhagwat has said, that he feels aggrieved, then he will go to Supreme Court or some remedy. Even Mr. Ashok Singhal has said, we have said, personal law board has said, so there is no such chance that Supreme Court judgment will not be accepted by any party. All major parties have said that yes, Supreme Court judgment will be accepted.
All right, let's shift our focus from one sensitive issue of national interest to the other one now, where we're talking of Kashmir. Now, there have been fresh clashes in the valley. The clashes took place in Budgam and in Tapar Patan. 2 people have died in 2 separate incidents, though there was firing in Budgam area, from where 1 death has been reported. It is not clear yet as to who fired at the mob in Tapar Patan. People defied the curfew for the 5th day since it was revamped after Eid celebrations. And all of this is happening in Kashmir, just ahead of the all-party delegation that is all set to go to Kashmir, where senior Congress leaders have met at party President Sonia Gandhi's residence. The decision that has come out is that Chidambaram will be leading that all-party delegation. In fact, my colleague Sohail Bukhari is with us on the phone line from Srinagar to apprise us of the situation over there. Sohail, what more details can you share with us of these latest instances of protests coming out from the valley?
Well, the situation continues to be quite tense even as we speak. Across Kashmir Valley, there's stringently imposed curfew, and we've had 2 violent incidents, one being reported from Budgam area, as you there has been an action by army. The 2nd battalion of Rashtriya Rifles, 1 person reported dead, and afterwards from Baramulla district in North Kashmir. So the situation continues to be volatile. This in the backdrop of the fact that the army has been put into action at several places, particularly in the rural areas, and this curfew is being imposed very, very stringently. Absolutely no movement whatsoever. We've had reports coming in from hospitals, patients, attendants not being able to come out and move, and then in fact airport resumed its functions, the Srinagar International Airport resumed its functions this morning, but the passengers who were supposed to fly maybe out of Srinagar, many of them could not even reach airport, given the fact that they were stopped midway at several places, despite the fact that there was already an announcement that they'd be considered as curfew passes, but that did not happen in many cases. So the situation continues to be quite volatile and grim amid a stringently imposed curfew and army, as I mentioned, being already pressed into action.
All right, well, Sohail, thanks very much for bringing us all those updates coming in from Kashmir on that story. Let's go back to that big story that we have been tracking for you, the Ayodhya issue. Well, the final verdict on that issue will be out on the 24th, as had been discussed earlier by the Allahabad High Court. It's the 24th that the judgment on the Ayodhya title suit is going to come out. In fact, let's go back to my colleague Anurag Tripathi on the phone line. Anurag, what more details can you share with us about the Ayodhya case?
Actually, it seems all the initiative of the court to solve the solution amicably has gone wrong, and that both the parties are not willing to compromise. And the petition, which was filed by one Mr. Ramesh Tripathi to defer the verdict, and find a solution by talk, has been rejected by the court now. And the information what we are getting from inside the court is that the judgment on this Babri Ram Janambhoomi suit will be announced on September 24th. So all the efforts have gone down the drain, and no positive result has come out from the meeting which court called for, and it seems that all the efforts have gone waste.
Absolutely. Well, Anurag, we were all actually hoping that this last initiative, really, where the two councils are invited for an out-of-court settlement, for an amicable way, that hasn't really happened now. And you are telling us that the final verdict from the Allahabad High Court on the issue will be out on the 24th of September. It is an extremely sensitive issue that we are dealing with here, and all eyes will be on that verdict that comes out on the 24th. Anurag.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is extremely sensitive issue, and court was trying to make one last attempt, basing on the petition filed by Ramesh and Tripathi. Court thought of a very